This is AnonNewsToday, the weekly update. One Bitcoin is currently worth $570 on BTC. Mt. Gox reopened its user database earlier this week to allow customers to log in with their previous username and password to view account balances. Along with the login option, Mt. Gox released a statement saying that users should be aware that the balance displayed on the site are not an acknowledgement by Mt. Gox on the amount of rehabilitation claims for users. Sticking with Gox news, the bankrupt exchange has declared in its findings that over 200,000 bitcoins were found in an old format wallet used by Mt. Gox. These bitcoins are currently worth around $116 million. This takes the total loss of bitcoins from 150,000 down to 650,000, and at least 90% of the total are being owned by customers and 10% by the exchange. The software driving the Bitcoin network was upgraded on Wednesday, with security fixes addressing a problem that Mt. Gox blamed for losing nearly $500 million worth of bitcoins. The open source software known as Bitcoin Qt has also been rebranded as Bitcoin Core to highlight that it runs the core infrastructure of the virtual currency's transactions and verification network. In just 2 months' time, citizens of all European Union member states will vote on who can represent them in the European Parliament. Pirate parties will join the election race in several countries, with Finland having the most prominent candidate in Pirate Bay founder Peter Sunde. Despite a pending prison term for all his involvement in Pirate Bay, Peter is determined to join the European Parliament in Brussels. Although Turkey has banned the social media site Twitter, that hasn't stopped the people from getting around the ban using an alternative DNS. According to We Are Social and Brandwatch, tweets in the country are up 138%. Honolulu police officers have urged lawmakers to keep an exemption in the state law that allows undercover officers to have sex with prostitutes during investigations. Authorities say they need the legal protection to catch lawmakers and crabs. Several Australian law enforcement agencies and the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation, ASIO, have submitted proposals asking the country's Senate for more surveillance power, and state police have even asked that the government move to log its citizens' web browsing history. ASIO is furthermore using the Snowden leaks to bolster its case for laws forcing Australian telecommunication companies to store certain types of customers' internet and telephone data for a period of what some law enforcement agencies would like to be 2 years. The Australian Attorney General is pushing a new law that would force suspects of computer crimes to disclose the passwords and keys necessary to decrypt their internet communications. Europe began to prepare for a possible trade war with Russia over Ukraine on Friday. The EU executives in Brussels were ordered to draft plans for much more substantial sanctions against Moscow if Putin presses ahead with Russian territorial expansion. Putin signed a treaty this week, annexing Crimea to great fanfare in the Kremlin and anger in the West. Igor Sechin, the head of Russia's biggest oil company, stated that if Europe and the United States isolate Russia, Moscow will look east for new business, energy deals, military contracts, and political alliances. The European Union and UNICEF launched a project on Thursday to build a desalination plant in the Gaza Strip to provide 75,000 Palestinians with drinking water. This project was implemented thanks to a $10 billion Euro grant. According to NASA's chief scientist, Dennis Bushnell, the entire ecosystem is crashing. Essentially, there are too many humans, and to survive as a species, we need 3 more planets. And if NASA terraforms Mars, it could take 120 years, and that's only one planet. We need more shortly. According to new Snowden revelations that have come to light this week, the NSA has built a new surveillance system. This new system is capable of recording a foreign country's telephone calls and store them for 30 days. The voice interception program called Mystic began in 2009. No information was provided on which countries might be under the program. Although it is reported that only 1% of calls are listened to each month, millions of voice clippings are sent away for long-term storage. A US federal judge denied a request from government prosecutors this week. The request was to obtain warrants for all records or other information stored by an individual. The judge deemed the request unnecessarily vague, stating the government continues to submit overly broad warrants and makes no effort to balance the law enforcement interests against the obvious expectations of privacy that email account holders have in their communications. Last week, Facebook announced that it had developed a program called DeepFace, which can determine whether photographed faces are the same person to a 97% accuracy. Google is being sued in the Californian courts for data mining email accounts of students using the Apps for Education tool suite. The majority of the users are K-12. Google admitted that it automatically scans and indexes the emails of the users, even though ads are off by default. IBM is spending more than $1 billion to build data centers overseas to reassure foreign customers that information is safe from prying eyes in the United States government. The business effect of these disclosures about the NSA is felt most in the daily conversations between tech companies with their products to pitch and their wary customers. Salesforce announced similar plans this month. Peace out.